Come on down to the Law Student Lounge with your host, Attorney Ryan McKeen, where law students like you tell their stories. So pull up a chair and join us in the lounge.
Hello, everybody. It's Attorney Ryan McKeen, and I couldn't be more excited about this edition of the Law Student Lounge. I'm here with Jaida Sloan. Jaida is a third year at New England School of Law. Welcome, Jaida.
Hi, happy to be joining.
Jaida, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm a third-year law student at New England Law, Boston. I'm originally from Texas, San Antonio. I went to undergraduate school at UTSA, and before attending law school, I worked for a judge, and I enjoyed that experience, and that was part of the reason why I decided to go to law school.
So when did you know that you wanted to go to law school? When was it? Was this something when you wanted to be a lawyer from a little kid, or is it something you found out with your judge?
Yeah, so I knew pretty much from the sixth grade that I wanted to be a lawyer because I joined the debate club and I really enjoyed that. And I started competing competitively from that point and won some competitions. So then, but then my judicial internship really sealed it for me. I got to see lawyers in action and it made me excited about the field.
That's awesome. I have my sixth grade yearbook, not high school yearbook, my sixth grade yearbook. It's like, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a lawyer. So I'm vibing with you on that. How did you get the clerkship in Texas and what did you do? And can you tell us about that experience? Because I think that's unique heading into law school to have.
Yeah, so I actually received this scholarship from the Honorable Charlie Gonzalez, who used to be a senator. And it was in his father's name, at Henry Gonzalez. And I got the opportunity to meet him and told him what I was interested in doing. And he actually helped me and introduced me to Judge Norman Gonzalez, who offered to take me under her wing and let me observe her courtroom. And while I was there, I got to write memos and predict the outcomes of cases, write little motions, and she would review them. And then we'd talk about like things that were in front of her. And I just asked a lot of questions.
Now, was this like a state court, a federal court, or what kind of business did the court do?
Yes. So it was a civil district court. It was really interesting because Texas is actually one of the only states that does family court jury trials. So I got to see one of those, and that was very interesting. And yeah, she did everything pretty much civil, and that was, and then our criminal district court is separate.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So for law students out there, you have a constitutional right to a jury trial in civil matters generally. However, at least federally and at Connecticut, it does not apply to family court. Presumably because, people want to keep things maybe a little bit more private, or, I think maybe the legislature, at least here, feels that they would be better decided by a judge than a jury. So that's really interesting that Texas does it. Did you get to see any family court jury trials?
I did. And it was very interesting. The judge eventually actually took it out of the jury's hand because she didn't think they were going to make the right decision in that matter. And so she ended up dismissing the jury and she decided the case. It was the custody battle.
Yeah, it's very, very unusual. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it existed anywhere. But I guess if it's going to exist somewhere, Texas is a kind of unique state and not sort of surprised. So where in Texas are you from?
I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
Were you born, raised there?
I was raised there. I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa, actually, but I moved to Texas when I was quite young, about 4 or 5. So I consider myself kind of a Texas girl.
Yeah. My wife Allison has been there. I've not been to San Antonio, and she says it's a wonderful place the wonderful little city. But I guess not so little anymore.
Yeah, one of the biggest actually now in the country. Yeah. So we're sizing up.
So you go to University of Texas, San Antonio. And what makes you decide to go to New England for law school?
Definitely scholarship opportunities. And then also just the idea of living in Boston. I wanted to live in a city that was accessible so I can not have a car. So those were the factors that went into it. But definitely scholarship opportunity. That was the most important thing to me. It was to graduate with as little debt as possible. And I got a great opportunity at New England Law, and that's what kind of sealed the deal for me there.
So if somebody out there and they're listening to this podcast, because it's primarily for law students or people who are thinking about going to law school, what would you recommend that they do in undergrad to, either set themselves up for scholarships or actually find the scholarships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to just research. This was something I knew I wanted to do when I went into college. So I did a lot of prep programs. Like there's this one called CLEO that helps underadvantaged pre-law students. You don't actually have to be a pre-law student, just students who are interested in going to law school. And they talk a lot about how to find scholarship opportunities. I know Access Lex actually just recently made a database to find scholarship opportunities too. And then to obtain scholarships, I would recommend to really get involved in your community, make a difference, be a change maker, because that's what schools are looking for. And that's who they perceive as deserving scholarships. And I agree. So I would do that. And also keeping your GPA up, because that's always important.
Now, did you apply to schools all over the country?
I did. That's another thing I would recommend to law students, is to not just apply in your state, because I know that law schools look at not just ethnic diversity, but also geographical diversity, because they want the classroom to be as diverse as possible. So coming from a different state, you might get a higher scholarship opportunity because of your geographical diversity too.
Now, it's not surprising to me at all that you're very engaged and you're very motivated. And so I think for somebody else who might be, a few years younger than you, maybe they're in college, how do you go about getting, like that clerkship? How do you connect with that senator to make that happen?
I would say just always keep your eye out, always research. I was constantly Googling like what to do and looking at podcasts of like what people are saying is good to do before law school. And that's how I did it. And just don't be afraid to send out emails. My mom's a high school teacher, and I always tell her students, like, if you're interested in an area, you should reach out to someone in that field and connect with them, and then they might be willing to help you. And my mom actually just did a field trip with her class to the judge that I internship with, and she just emailed her and asked her for class to come and observe. And that's how you build that baseline, that relationship. So that's what I would try to do.
Really two things here. One of which is if you're a law student, the thing about the legal profession, I think the very best thing about it is that lawyers are really willing to help other lawyers or people who are interested. I've talked to lawyers from all over the country. I've been at this for 20 years at this point. And it's really one of the nicest things about the profession, about people looking to help. But we have to know who to help. You have to reach out. Lawyers are busy people. People who are judges are busy people. And so, they're not just going to come to you naturally. But if you get out and you go to the event, or you make you send the letter or email or whatever it is, like that can go a long way in doing it. It can be very uncomfortable. I think, it's hard sometimes for me or for others to sort of ask for help. You put yourself out there, there's a chance you get rejected. There's a chance nothing happens. But, and most of the time, the worst thing that happens is nothing. But you have almost nothing to lose by just saying like, hey, I'm interested in this. Do you know anybody I could talk to? Is there anything I could do? I think that's if anybody's listening to this and we get nothing more out of this conversation, you're going to have added a lot of value because of just that, Jaida.
Yeah, for sure. And I would just say that it's better to just let them say no and put yourself out there. I completely agree.
So, okay. So you take, you go to law, you want to go to law school. When do you take the LSAT?
I took the LSAT my senior year of college while I was working 3 jobs. So it's possible you can do it all at once and you can still get into law school.
Did you do any prep courses for the LSAT?
I did Khan Academy, of course. That's where I started. That's what I recommend for everybody. Try the free programs first. And then I noticed that I needed a little bit more structure to, and if you're that kind of person, then I recommend signing up for a program. There are cheaper ones, just research it, because I know some of them are thousands of dollars. So I would recommend trying to find a cheaper one because they are out there. And that's what I did.
And I know there's a lot of discussion out there on should you take it once or multiple times, or when should you take it? So can you sort of shed some light on some of the decisions that you made, because you obviously really researched this?
Yeah. I didn't score as high as I wanted to be honest, on my LSAT, but my uncle actually is the one who convinced me to just apply and see if you get in with the scores that you have and see if you get scholarships. So I went ahead and just went for it. I would recommend maybe taking it your junior year of college in the summer and seeing how you do, so you have like that time to see how your scores were, and if they are what you need to get into law school. You can always go to LSAC, and they'll tell you, they have a tool on there that tells you what LSAT score you need to get into every law school based on your GPA and your LSAT score, and it will tell you the percentage chance that you have to getting into each school. So that's what I did to just weigh my options. And I saw enough schools that were going to let me in. And so I went ahead and just applied.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that that's another really important point, Jaida, where, the LSAT is but one, it's a one data point, and it's an important one, but it's not the only data point. So if you're out there and you're unsure and you're feeling discouraged, or you don't get the score you want, most people aren't going to get the score that they want. It's not necessarily an end for you. Like it's one factor amongst many. And I can tell you, having practiced law for 20 years, I don't even know what my LSAT was anymore. And nobody has ever asked me, no client, no firm that's ever hired me, nobody's ever asked me what my LSAT score is. So it has very limited utility in your life in general. So, give that some perspective, in general. So okay, so you apply, take the LSAT, and I always think it's interesting. I remember vividly my first days or weeks up on law school as a 1L. Can you tell us about that for you, what that experience was like for you?
It was definitely scary. They were cold calling on the first day. And my last name's Sloan, so I knew I wasn't going to be on call first day. So I was like, yes. But I saw the torture in everyone else's eyes, and that it's just getting through that first day. And I remember studying in the library before school started, and we already had readings assigned. And a girl came up to me and asked me, she's like, I don't understand this case. And that's the thing that I realized, and I hope that everyone can understand, is that sometimes you're going to go into class and you're not going to fully understand the case, but the goal is by the end of class you will. So you just have to do your best, and sometimes the cases are just such old law that you just can't understand the language. You can try to look on other platforms and help you understand the analysis of the cases, and that's what I did, because we read that Fox case first week that's from the 1900s, early 1900s, and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
the property case, right? It's about the Fox. That's an interesting one, because I for a while I got into a little bit about foul ball law, in baseball games. I just like quirky things, and it actually relates back to that silly Fox case that you read in property law. And I also remember, actually my very first class was a criminal law class. And the very first case we read was two guys out on a boat, and one ate the other guy or something like that. It's this old British case. Maybe there's 3 guys on a boat, and I don't know. Anyhow, somebody ended up getting eaten in the thing. And it was this case from the 1600s. And I'm like, what did I get myself into? But in general, I mean, nobody knows anything in law school, especially early on. And so if you get that first case, don't expect to know it, because law school isn't necessarily about substantive knowledge, so to speak. It's about the process of learning the law. And so the way in which you learn the law is get thrown into the fire, so to speak, and to work your way through it. So I think for somebody going in with that attitude, gosh, if you understood an 18th century Fox case and a 16th century British case where one guy eats another guy, I mean, I'm not believing you. Okay, I'm not believing you is what I'm not doing. And there are resources, and I'm sure even now there's more. You can go on YouTube and probably learn all about the case. But that is definitely a thing.
Yeah, and I just think that a lot of people get so scared in those first couple weeks and like start feeling in like imposters. And I always tell 1Ls that it's like everyone's feeling that way, even if they don't want to admit it. So just don't give up and just keep going.
Imposter syndrome is something that's come up on every single one of the interviews that I've done so far for this podcast. And I'm guessing will come up on every single one I do going forward. Could you talk a little bit about that? About were you able to identify imposter syndrome? Were you able, how you work through it, and what advice you would give in general?
I just was honest with people around me when I didn't understand things. And then they were honest back with me. And then I realized, wow, no one's understanding this. No one's getting the same cases that I'm getting. I mean, maybe one person does, but then maybe they don't understand a case that I understand. And once you build that rapport with people, it makes law school a lot easier, a lot more community-based. And you just have to find people that you can trust. And then you're going to feel more comfortable in law school and less like an imposter. Because, people are always comparing themselves to others. I mean, you really shouldn't, but it's just a part of law school. So I think that if you can talk to people and tell them what you're confused about, you'll realize that other people are confused about things too.
That is a great point. And I just thinking back to my experience, like there were always, we had like two people in our class. I'm not going to name their names because I could name their names. They were smug and they thought they knew it all, and they thought they knew they were there was nothing to worry about. They knew it all. And then I remember these two guys. They're guys, always guys, white guys. Like I remember these two guys. We got up and they handed out our criminal law was a final. It was like a 1 semester instead of a year-long course. And they went up and they got their grades on their exam. And I just remember their faces, like, 'cause it was the only final grade in the first half of the first year. And I remember their faces as they're walking back to their desks. Like, they were humbled. They got it handed to them. Like, and sort of like everybody else in the section was kind of like keeping it real and like, yeah, I don't understand, or I'm working through. And I just remember, like, I think that these guys ended up getting like 72s on their final for their first year, like really not a good grade at all. And so if you're out there and you're going to law school and you're feeling like Jaida felt, you're feeling like I felt, and you see somebody who, likes to puff that they have it all together, they probably don't. They probably do not.
That is my exact experience. And some of those people are not in law school anymore. I think you can't go into exams being too confident, and law school will humble you for sure. And I think that you just have to go in saying, I don't know everything, because that's the best way to study. That's how you're going to get the best results. I mean, I've never felt 100% confident going into an exam, but I've gotten good results because I was humble about it and I studied hard.
And that self-awareness is going to serve you well as a lawyer. One of the things I always look for as I hire lawyers is, like, do they have a few things? Really, I think 2 traits. I'm going to assume anybody I'm talking to is intelligent enough, like they're smart enough to do the work. So I don't think, like, look, like they're going to hit a baseline of intelligence, and being a little bit more intelligent or less intelligent is not going to make a whole lot of difference. But are they curious about the problem? Are they curious about what the answer may be? If they're super certain about what the answer is and they don't have a lot of experience, like, that is a huge, huge red flag. Like, they're going to run through things. They're going to make big mistakes. They're going to hurt their clients. They're going to hurt their cases. Look, if somebody's been at it for 25 years and they're like, this is this, I'm like, I get you with what you're saying there. Are they curious? Are they persistent? Are they willing to sort of work through all the hard things that they need to work through, both intellectually and personally? Like, are they willing to be humble and set their ego aside and dig deeper and not get discouraged? I think that the curiosity and the persistence / resilience are probably the most important traits of success for a lawyer.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they say you go to 10 different lawyers, you'll get 10 different answers, but it's just the quality and the amount of research you put into it and care, I feel like, that sets a good lawyer apart from a bad lawyer too.
What is it that, sometimes a lot of times, a lot of talk about law schools and how hard it is or stressful it is, what are some of the things that brought you joy or bring you joy in law school?
I think that getting involved can be really beneficial. I don't know if I completely recommend doing it any leadership roles your first year of law school, because that can be overwhelming. And I've seen people fail out because of that, because they overextenuated themselves. But I think that like joining an org that can help you, like I joined first generation law students, and we have meetings for that, and BOLSA, and just building community in law school can really bring that joy and that shared experience that is hard to share with people who haven't been through law school or haven't had your professors. So I think that's definitely brought me joy, and doing mock trial was amazing. I did mock trial this year, and that was an emotional roller coaster, but that is the most I felt certain that I want to be a lawyer, and really brought it home for me. Like, that was the most joy I felt in law school for sure.
Yeah, I again, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, some of my first year classmates are still some of my best friends. We ended up in a lot of each other's weddings. In fact, I'm still in a fantasy baseball league with a lot of the guys who, it's going on like season 19 at this point. And your law student classmates can be a real source of richness and connecting with them, and throughout your whole career, honestly, could be a whole thing. And I think too, the second thing that you hit on was moot court, and getting out of the classroom is so critical, I think, to development of a lawyer. Like, law doesn't exist in a library. Like, no lawyer I know, maybe there's somebody out there, I'm sure 99.9% of anything that would be considered legal work is not just you alone. It is you out, it is you doing things. It is out of the office sometimes, it is sometimes in the office, but so I think getting out and getting those experiences, man, that is so valuable, Jaida. So what are you looking, as you head into your third year, like what more experiences are you looking to have?
I think that I am trying to study for the bar mostly, take classes that are bar oriented, still stay networking, because I think that's important, and maintaining relationships with people in law school, I think is important, because a lot of people get burnt out third year and just stop talking to people. But I think it's important to keep those relationships, and take the bar classes that aren't required, so that way you can set yourself up for familiarity when you start studying for the bar. At least that's my approach for it.
Do they do any bar study classes in your school?
Yes, the last semester. I'm also taking the so we do two parts. There's a fall one that's not required, and that's the one where we go over the essay part of the bar exam, and then the second semester one, which is required, goes over multiple choice mainly, and the different areas that it covers on the bar.
I remember we did our law school had no. I think at the time the ABA even forbade it, they couldn't do it. You could take things you had to take things like evidence or different bar subjects, but you couldn't have a class specifically on the bar, which is kind of silly. So what they did is they brought in a private bar class guy, a private bar tutor who just taught the bar exam. And it was hysterical, because one night I was in the lobby with some of my friends in law school. It's a Friday night in October of our third year. The top of the class is there, okay? And one of our first year professors was walking through the lobby on her way home, and she's like, "What are you guys all doing here on a Friday night?" And we said, "Oh, we've got the bar prep course." And she just started laughing. I could just see her face laughing. And she's like, "Of course, it's the smart kids who are doing the voluntary course. We brought this for the kids who needed her at the bar." And she's like, and she started laughing. But I think that, the sooner you can just take that stuff and learn that, there's no mystery or magic to the bar exam. It's a memorization test at the end of the day. And it's about getting enough reps and doing enough memorization for it to sink in, and everybody learns at their own pace. But there's no harm in starting and exposing yourself to the ways of the bar exam. I think I found it very useful, even though I was I was hanging with the smart kids who were in the class who, but all of those people passed the bar. So
yeah, exactly.
the advice I got and the advice I would give anybody is, treat the bar exam like it's your full-time job with a little bit of homework. And if you do that, you're going to be okay. If you want to take the month of June off to go golfing and go to the beach and hang out and drink and then think you're going to study for 2 weeks in July, like, you're going to get your butt kicked. You're going to fail. Even if you've done well in school, you're going to fail. So treat it seriously. And, most people, you'll end up doing fine. So can you talk to me too, a little bit in law school, like, have you done any clerkships or anything like that? Like, and how has that experience helped you?
Yeah, I haven't done any clinics because I've been working with Connecticut Trial Firm. And so I was getting more practical experience, but I'm also doing a clerkship or honors judicial internship specifically this fall. And so I'll be working with the judge in Boston.
Oh, awesome. And what kind of judicial work what kind of work are you going to be doing with the judge?
Well, he said that he's never had an intern before, so he's not sure yet, but I'm sure he's going to throw lots of different things at me. That's what he said. Expect anything.
And that is a great experience. I practiced when I came out, and I practiced at a general practice firm, which are not, they don't exist very much anymore, but it was sort of like a local town firm. And, the firm had like a reputation in the town, and somebody needed a divorce. They called the firm. They buy the real estate. They called the firm. The middle kid who wasn't very good got the DUI. They called the firm. Aunt Joe got in the car accident. They called the firm. They get divorced. They called the firm. They started a business. They called the firm. And so I, as an associate, spent 6.5 years basically bouncing through a bunch of areas of law and learning a bunch of different things. Because I had to. And what you'll find is that the skills from one area of law are transferable. And the more exposure you have to all law, the better you're going to be when you focus on something, or at least that's what I felt. So if you were in, you interned in law school for like a Social Security disability magistrate or something, an administrative law judge, you're going to get a small sliver as to like what the whole thing is about, and fine if you want to do Social Security disability, fine. But I think, such an experience of getting a whole cross section of things thrown at you, you're going to find out what you're good at, what you like, how things are interrelated, and how different lawyers approach different things differently. So that is fantastic, Jaida.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me too? There may be a lot of people out there, maybe they're 1L and they're thinking about doing mock trial. Can you talk to me about how you got on a mock trial team, what that experience was like for you?
Yeah. So they sent us a little prep packet, it had evidence in it, and then you had to know the rules of evidence, of course. We have one mock trial team at my school that allows 1Ls to do it. I don't really see, I'm sure it will help you once you do get into evidence, but it will be hard to do mock trial as a 1L, I would imagine, unless you understand the rules of evidence. I did it my 2L year. And so they gave us exhibits that you had to try to get admitted, write an opening statement, and like a fact pattern and the charges. And so that's what I tried out with. And I had to do an opening, a direct, and a cross.
Yeah, when I was in law school, you couldn't even touch mock trial until you were at least a 2L. What part of that trial did you like the most? Was it the cross or the closing?
I really love doing cross. I do. I love not knowing what the witness is exactly going to say and then pulling the testimony out that I want. That's the most rewarding part. That's the most exciting part and most engaging part, I feel like, if you like that stuff.
Oh yeah. There's no more fun in trial than doing a cross-examination of a witness, because you should only, if you're out there and you want to be a trial lawyer, like, you should really only be doing cross-examinations on points and of witnesses that you have something on. And a lot of lawyers make a mistake of like, I've got to cross-examine every witness. Well, no, you don't necessarily, because some of it is just testimony that let it go in one ear or out the other. And every time you do something at trial, there's a risk. So so when you get to do a cross, it's usually because like you've got them on something, like you know what it is. And the very most effective trial lawyers that I've ever seen, they have maybe 1 to 3 points that they want to cross somebody on, period. because and they go after those points. They just is like, this is the important thing, and I'm going to hammer this thing, and I'm going to go after it. The very worst cross-examinations that I've ever seen, and we may have been in court for one. I don't know if you were there with Dr. Singh, where
Yes.
it just meanders. The lawyer just asks 6,000 questions that don't seem to go anywhere. And the jury tunes out. And, so always, if you're thinking about becoming a trial lawyer, like, know that sometimes, like, the answer to every legal problem is sometimes not crossing and just letting a witness get down is a great thing. But I know, because we work together, I know you had some success at mock trial. So you're being a little humble here. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I did. I did a regional competition, Northeast regional competition, and my team placed second place. And then we made it to nationals, and we competed in that competition as well. So it was a great time.
Where did they have nationals? Where were nationals for you, Jaida?
So regionals was in Atlantic City, and then nationals was in Washington, D.C.
Oh, nice. And I think it's always fun to get to travel and get to do those things and see different judges. Now you've gone through law school, you've had some experiences, and I think the most annoying question that I was asked as a law student is sort of like, well, what do you want to do? I preface this by saying that, a lot of areas of law that exist today didn't even exist when I graduated in 2005. Like, there was no cryptocurrency. Like, if you were a cannabis lawyer, you represented drug dealers and not land developers looking to create recreational stores and business licenses, right? So there's society has changed so much and is only going to get more complicated. You could imagine complicated issues surrounding artificial intelligence and other different things. So what is it? How are you feeling? What are you feeling? And how are you work? I'm not so interested in what you want to do, because that, I think, is an unfair question to even ask. And I think for most people, the answer is, I don't know, which is, I think, is a perfectly fine. But how do you sort of wrestle with that? And maybe you do know.
Yeah, so I just made sure my second year of law school to take kind of a diverse group of classes. But I did know going to law school what I wanted to practice. I've always wanted to do civil. I knew I wanted to do civil, and then I narrowed it down to personal injury and product liability as my main areas of interest because of what I saw at the courthouse. I also got to observe a criminal courthouse when I was in undergrad, and I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing this. So it's also good to just rule out what you're not interested in. I think for people who don't know what they want to do, it's just like figuring out what you don't want to do. That can help you narrow that down for sure.
Huge value. I'm a huge fan of Wordle. And I was reading an article that there's like more value in even eliminating letters than there are like finding letters. And obviously, like you're so excited when I'm excited when that square comes up green. But really, it's the gray squares where it's like, okay, there's no E in this letter, no O in this letter that are ultimately the clues on the path that I should be on, right?
Yeah.
So you're a very serious law student. You got all this stuff, all this great stuff going on, internships, being an associate at Connecticut Trial Firm, seeing trials, judges. You got all this stuff going on. What do you like to do for fun?
I'm a really big documentary buff. I always ask people what they're interested in, and then I tell them what documentary they should watch. And then I'm really I love being on a boat. I love traveling. Those are my main areas of interest right now. I just like to relax when I have spare time.
So I also love documentaries. And so I'm going to ask you for a recommendation. Favorite Mount Everest documentary?
Oh, wow. I don't think I have one for that. That's so specific.
See, this is the world we live. Like, I started watching these like Mount Everest documentary, and I think like everybody who has to climb the damn mountain has to make a movie about it. Like, it's just like the genre is out there, and I'm all interested in these Sherpas and how they tackle these problems. So for me, it's Mount Everest documentaries. What are your favorite? If you had like just somebody who was like, I just like documentaries. What are you telling them to watch?
I really like to watch ones. I mean, I feel like everyone's into true crime. So I really like ones about trials and like criminal cases and kind of looking at like the human element of everything. And then ones about like, I just watched this one about products and like how they can cause human damages and everything. And there was a class action suit with Diva Curl products, and there was a documentary about that, and nail industries. And then I also like history documentaries. So just stuff like that is where I mainly watch.
So I'm a history major, so I vibe with you there. And I also, have you seen the Boeing documentary?
Oh, yeah. The one about the
Yeah.
plane that crashed, right? And like how there was all these issues with them.
Yep. And about how about the corporate decisions that led to the plane crash. Really, like the plane crash wasn't the fault of the pilots. It wasn't the fault of the engineers. It was really a result of the people in boardrooms making conscious decisions that compromise safety and ultimately life of people. And that is something that certainly plays out in our industry and what we see, period, all over the place. So. And for travel, what's your favorite trip?
Well, I just came back from a cruise and we went to the Grand Turks, and I love that island. I really want to go to Greece next. That's my next stop.
That is awesome. Grand Turks. I've been to Grand Turks. I don't know. I've been to what's the big city in Turks and Caicos? Is Turks and Caicos Grand Turks? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is. I think Grand Turks is one of the islands, a part of Turks and Caicos.
So beautiful beaches, fantastic.
Yeah.
For sure. I've not been to Greece, but also a place I'd like to go. So gonna close this out. Close it out by asking two questions. Like, if you could go back to yourself, starting law school, say two plus years ago, at this point in the summer, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, don't worry about what other people are doing, and just focus on yourself and your own goals and really where you want to be. And I think that just would help me a lot.
That's great life advice. One foot in front of the other. You're all on your own paths in law school. Like there's a lot of different ways you can go. You're all on your own journeys in life, and you just happen to be there for a minute. So yeah, focusing on what's important to you and ignoring the rest is great advice. So second thing I'm going to ask you is like, hey, we're at a cookout together, and serving some hamburgers or veggie burgers or whatever you burger. Okay. What toppings are you putting on that burger?
I'm doing pickles and barbecue sauce. I'm a Texas girl, so I like barbecue sauce on everything.
I cannot say I've ever had a burger with pickles and barbecue sauce. So I will have to try. I'm a fan of like, if it's simple, like mayonnaise, ketchup, and pickles. It has to have a pickle. For me, I can also be persuaded on mustard, but if you have to ask me, mayonnaise, mustard, mayonnaise, ketchup, and pickle is where I'm going with that. So
you're gonna try a brisket burger too.
I think I just have to come to San Antonio. That's what I think I need to do. I mean, I don't know that I'm so trusting a brisket burger in Connecticut. Oh, we've got some pretty good barbecue, but probably not Texas barbecue. Certainly not Texas barbecue. So I will have to come down to Texas. Well, Jaida, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a really great chat. I know anybody who's listened to this, they're going to get something out of it. And I just wish you continued success, Jaida. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Ryan McKeen in the Law Student Lounge, where real law students talk about their real lives. Are you a law student with a story to tell? Learn how you can share your story with us in the episode description. And join us next time in the Law Student Lounge.